Hello, Hari.
Hey, Judy.
Hi, great to be with you today. Thank you for joining.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Good to see you.
Wonderful. You too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year as well.
So let's start with a soft question, Harish. There's a really important football game on Saturday. The Green Bay Packers play the 49ers. Who are you going to root for?
49ers, naturally.
That's what I expected. I'm a cheesehead, so we're going to be rooting against each other, but good luck to your team. So, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm here with Harish, who is a product expert and a Support Logic advisor. I am Judy Plotz. I am the Chief Customer Officer for Support Logic. We're really happy to be with you in the beginning of this new year. I hope everyone has entered the new year and you're feeling refreshed and recharged. And today we're going to talk about something that is refreshing for the industry: complete quality management. This is something that support organizations have hopefully had in place for quite a long time. And one of the areas that we are seeing significant changes in. Very fast changes are occurring in quality management, and some exciting changes, obviously, due to what AI has presented to us as opportunities. So, Harish, as we get in, and I know you have a lot of great content to share with us, when you think about QA and quality monitoring and the entire type of program, why do you think it's so needed, especially in support centers and contact centers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, morning, everybody. So QA, as we have seen, has become really critical, primarily because things change so rapidly in the support space that we need to keep our agents up to date. We need to ensure that they're receiving the right coaching, and agents are a reflection for us to understand how well customers are being handled. So any program that kind of helps us understand how our agents are interacting with the customers, are they keeping them happy? Are they keeping them? Are they updating them enough? Are they actually trying to resolve their problem? Any program that helps us get those insights is extremely critical, primarily for customer retention in this new economy. So QA programs earlier had started off as nice to haves, but over the last 2 3 years, we can see that many organizations are moving them into their must-have buckets.
Absolutely. And you mentioned customer retention, but also agent retention, and knowing that our younger workforce, wants that feedback and that coaching on a consistent basis. So, we talk a lot, especially at Support Logic, since we have added Elevate SX to our platform. We talk about manual QA and we talk about auto QA. What is the difference for people who haven't really started to explore the auto QA function yet?
Yeah. So typically in these support centers, when you want to evaluate your agents and how well they're interacting with the customers, it's always better to start off with a manual QA program where a supervisor or maybe a dedicated QA manager or an analyst is actually reviewing the chat transcripts or their email transcripts or even their phone calls and giving that feedback to the agents. So if you're just getting started, always start with a manual process, get a hold of what's happening, what are the criteria you should even be looking out for your organization. Getting an idea of all of that is where most teams start, which is a manual QA program, right? Clearly, it's useful. Feedback is given off maybe weekly or even monthly, but it's better than having nothing. But the upside is limited because there's only very few interactions one can manually QA or audit. The auto QA technology started coming off over the last few years, where slightly more mature organizations have started adopting auto QA, where some kind of a technology, some kind of a product or a solution or some machine learning algorithm is automatically scanning every interaction, right? So it's not just this small sample that a human can audit. Now this tool is automatically auditing every interaction you're having with your customers, and then trying to figure out all the signals and provide that feedback back to the agents and their supervisors. So there's a stark difference. Each company, depending on where they are on their maturity curve, can use either one or both. But typically what we see is most organizations need both, because you cannot simply get rid of your manual QA. It has to continue, but having both provides you the scale and the depth that you need. That's basically where we stand.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And a follow-up question on that. You talk a fair bit coaching and, who should ideally be in that coaching role, right? Many organizations put a quality team in place. And I think it's fair to say that over the many years that you and I have been in the industry, sometimes that quality team can see a bit disciplinarian or maybe not in a coaching role, right? They're looking at, like you said, a percentage, usually maybe 5 to 10% of the total case volume. Who do you think is the right person when you consider coaching? Who would be an Elevate SX or, a monitoring user?
Yeah, it's a great question. Ideally, you want the supervisors to be the people who are coaching the agents, but the role of QA is very important here because they are these neutral third-party observers. Now, you want them to be there because ultimately, while coaching is important, you want it also to be very unbiased, right? So for all our good instincts, good intentions, a manager could still be biased, right? So QA's role is that they stay very unbiased. They are the ones giving this very objective feedback. But how do you deliver that? How do you have a coaching plan? How do you have some kind of an improvement plan for the agent? That, in my opinion, should still be done by the managers actively. And most mature organizations usually follow that protocol.
Very good. Thank you. And of course, the two letters that we hear every day, all day now, right? AI. AI has had a tremendous impact on this space. I think on average, we must hear it hundreds of times a day, where we didn't hear it that often, even 12 months ago or 18 months ago. What role has AI played in this space?
Yeah, great question. So when we started off a few years ago, clearly AI was evolving, and some of the first models we had built, they did a pretty good job. For example, most QA teams on their rubric have these things about how did my agents greet the customer? Are they following the script? How are they ending the conversation? Are they actually showing empathy and stuff like that? So most of these teams have these kind of questions on the rubric, and we were able to build models to address those. But then there are some trickier, more gnarly questions that everybody's interested in. Are they actually talking about the product spec? Are they actually pitching new product? Are they preserving our brand identity? Did they really resolve the problem, or were they just goofing around with the customer? So there's this more tricky questions which people have tried, we have tried, and it was really hard to build those models. But this whole new wave of Gen AI, LLM stuff, led by OpenAI, has opened up the doors now. It's become much more easier to actually figure out, looking at a transcript or even a voice call, how well it went. Did they actually resolve the problem? Were they wasting a lot of time? Even from a customer sentiment angle, figuring out how are they going through this conversation, what are they feeling? This new Gen AI world has kind of made it a little more easier to build models like that. So it's a very, very exciting time if you're in the auto QA world, because the barrier to entry has come down. Being able to promise our customers at Support Logic, we already built many of these models, but being able to promise our customers that, hey, we can actually figure out if a problem has been resolved. We can actually figure out what is the intent of the customer who came in during this conversation. We can promise those with a higher authority, higher reliability in this new world. So it's a super exciting time, and all those managers and all the QA heads who've been kind of challenged trying to figure out, we exactly need this kind of rubrics to be addressed, and previous solutions could not. In this new world, most of them can. So it'll actually help a lot with auto QA.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I know you are such an expert in this space, and I appreciate everything that that you have done, to expand the Support Logic platform to include this very important tool. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Before I do, I want to mention a couple of things for all of our audience members. Again, thank you for being with us today. You have access to ask us questions as we go through, so please don't hesitate. Use the QA link there on the, I believe, the top right of your screen. Type your question in, and we'll make sure to save time to answer those questions. We also have a docs section there next to the QA, and the docs will allow you access to a number of documents that we have, our online e-learning academy, and certainly things specific to Elevate SX, agent coaching, scorecard builder, voice analytics. And you'll see also a link to sign up for the February roadmap session, which I'll be delivering with Karan, who is our Chief Product Officer. We did that session in November, very widely attended, great information for customers to be able to plan their transformation efforts when it comes to how they're using Support Logic and how we fit into their overall technology stack. But I know we also have a poll. So let's do a poll before we turn it over to you completely, Harish. I think that'll give us some good information on who we have with us. So Lynn, how about you launch the first poll that we have? And overall, what would be great to hear from the audience is how do they rate the effectiveness of their current QA program? Okay, just a couple of votes coming in so far from the audience. We're seeing vote for effective. We're seeing a vote for ineffective. More votes for neutral, telling us maybe the audience not quite sure how strong or robust they are. We'll leave that poll open for a little while, close it, and then we'll share those results. So Harish, I know you have great content to share. I'll stay here with you and look forward to everything that you're going to share with the customers over the next little bit.
I'll walk you through a few of our slides on the deck, and then we'll do the actual product demo. So here I'm Harish and Judy, we've talked. So this is all the logos. Most of you are part of this logo deck here. So great to have you, and thank you for being great customers. Some of these are also already using Elevate SX. We have Snowflake and a bunch of other customers who are already live Elevate SX customers. All right, I'll move forward. So in the whole pantheon of Support Logic product capabilities, this is where Elevate SX kind of falls in that umbrella. We have Core SX. Most of you are happy customers of that. And then we have Elevate SX, which is the quality and coaching tool. And then we have a third part, Agent SX. Today, we're going to focus on Elevate SX, and I will talk about the problem. So some of you have answered that you have an effective or a neutral QA program. You probably are already aware of this, but most teams are in this stage right now that even if they do have a program, they are doing some sparse checking on some kind of a audit, which is 1 to 2% of all their interactions. At best, we have seen teams getting to 5 or 6% when you're doing this manual QA process, which is great. It's better than having nothing. But some of the issues there are that you're only looking at a small sample size of all of your conversations. The feedback is usually quite delayed because it's obviously everything is heavily human driven, and the feedback can also be very subjective. Right? And we hear this consistently from a lot of our prospects and customers. So from there, a kind of a hybrid QA solution, which is both order QA and manual QA, takes you to this stage where it's 100% coverage. So every conversation is being analyzed against a rubric that you kind of agree for. It's clearly very scalable. So we have customers who have varying support volumes through the year. So you don't have to keep looking for resources when volume goes up during holiday season or what have you. But this tool will automatically scale up and down depending on how your volumes change. Since it's also automatic, it's very timely and contextual. Right? So we have customers whose QAs are getting updated, whose dashboards are getting updated every hour. In fact, people can go every hour, every day, whatever your time frequency is, but every one of those conversations in the last 1 hour is automatically getting analyzed, and any deviations, any issues are being flagged, and the dashboards are getting updated, emails are being sent out. All of that can be completely automated, right? And lastly, it's consistent and objective because it's an order QA program. It's some kind of a machine trying to look through all the conversations. The first cut is clearly very, very objective. And if a human comes in and tries to look on top of that and give more feedback, that's where the human subjectivity would come in. But clearly taking somebody from a 1% sample sizing place to 100% complete coverage provides a bunch of these benefits here. In a snapshot, this is basically the overall benefit of auto QA. In addition to being able to QA, we also have some other modules that we'll talk about briefly, which is we have something called a customer effort score. Since we are analyzing all of your interactions anyways, we are also able to figure out what the customer effort score is, right? And so the core product that you are using will be able to figure this customer effort score and send it back to some of your core dashboards as well, right? But the real value is that we're taking you from this 1% sample sizing to 100% coverage, right? Briefly, to understand how it works, we're able to plug into, just like we have today, any of your ticketing systems or source systems. We probably already have all of your data in our system here internally. We are then able to analyze those. We can do multi-model in the manner of speaking. We essentially can analyze emails, your chat transcripts, and phone calls. Right, so we can analyze all of those to come up with an auto QA score, or what we call as complete QA program. To the right that you see as an output, this is basically trying to help you kind of understand what a QA scorecard could look like. We have customers with various angles, various flavors of what a scorecard can have. It could be behaviors, it could be around trust, it could be around brand. All of those can be done as well in the system. Lastly, we also support multilingual data. So if your support conversations are coming in any language other than English, we're still able to support all of those. At a high level, the overall use cases are clearly manual and auto QA. So you may come across some of the solutions where they're doing only manual or only auto. At Elevate SX in Support Logic, we can do both, right? So if you just want to get started with a manual QA program, we could get you off and running very quickly. Then you can slowly move over to auto QA. But if you already have manual QA and you have some kind of a confidence in that, and now you want to start testing out, how do I move from this sample 1% to 100%, then we can just launch auto QA right away for you, right? Given that we are doing all of this analysis, the real value is in coaching. So we have dedicated coaching modules where all of this data is available, and then you can do your coaching to the agents. You can share notes to them. You can record yourself and share videos with them asynchronously. We cover all of that for coaching. And lastly, I was talking about being able to give you a customer effort score and a predictive CSAT. So we have models for this. We've deployed these models as well. So you can do all of this in our solution right now.
Harish, may I ask a question here? You mentioned the manual and the QA models, or the automatic models. If we do the manual QA, a customer is asking, are we also teaching the automated QA at the same time?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. So when you're doing manual QA, you are creating a flavor of your own style of QA, right? And that certainly informs our auto QA models. Just to go a little more technical on the machine learning part, 2 or 3 manual QAs won't work. It has to be in volumes, in hundreds. But if you were to reach that stage, we can certainly customize auto QA models based on how you are manually QAing that. Absolutely. Right. Great question. Yeah, I'll move forward. This is just a sample auto QA scorecard. This is something that we can offer out of the box. Of course, we can change it, we can tweak it for you. But this just kind of showcases what all models we have built in the past for our other customers. Right. The blue ovals that you see here, they're essentially the skills. In our system, we kind of change your scorecard to skills and behaviors. So at a high level, you have skills like empathy, friendliness, helpfulness, commitment, while you have behaviors which are a little deeper, where the models are actually trying to figure out these individual behaviors from the conversation. We can also help on the customer sentiment side. Clearly you're already using the core module, so you have a good handle on that. But Just to add to that, we have a few more models which are very, very pertinent to the QA side of things, which is the profanity part. Any legal threats that the customers are kind of doing. We can try to figure some of these things out from the conversation, but from a very QA centric perspective. So this is where I would launch into a demo. This is, if you're doing manual QA, this is probably very familiar to you. Most manual QA scorecards are at this stage right now, where you have some kind of an Excel sheet. Maybe you're using a tool, but ultimately everything is being done manually, and you have defined all of your criteria. Right? From here, we take you to a stage where everything is automatically analyzed. So in this world, this is basically how our analysis is done. So in the previous thing, you have seen this Excel sheet where everything is being manually scored. But once you adopt our product, your entire, whether it's Salesforce, Zendesk, whatever your system of record, your entire case is imported automatically. Every one of your agent comments, so in this case here, Gayatri is an agent, every one of your agent comments is automatically analyzed against a scorecard. So as you can see on the right hand side, we have a scorecard defined where opening is a skill, greetings and assistance, introduction, they're all various behaviors. So we're trying to figure out if that particular behavior has been observed. If it has been observed, is it positive or negative? Right. So that's what the auto QA system is automatically doing it for you for every one of your agent comments. Here in this case, clearly there was a spelling mistake, so it's going to catch it as a negative. Right. You can also observe that every one of your customer comments is flagged here. We have automatic redaction built in, where your customers, any PII information, whether they're sharing their location, their email address, phone number, any credit card information, everything is automatically masked, automatically redacted. System automatically takes care of that, so you don't have to worry about that. Right. So the real value here is that each agent's comment is being analyzed against a scorecard that we agree upfront, and then it's automatically QAing this entire conversation. Right. So the other flavor here is you could have long pending cases where there's multiple engineers or agents who are involved in solving that particular case, in which case we automatically create separate scores for each agent. Right. So once, as you can see on the top left hand side here, auto QA score of 80. So once a case has been automatically analyzed, it gets a score called auto QA score. Right. But if you had multiple agents involved in this score, in this case, each of them gets their own score. And then you also get this overall composite score called auto QA score for that entire case. Right. So this is basically how you would say it. So if you had multiple agents involved here, you'll have multiple rows, and what is their auto QA score and what is their manual score. Now I want to talk a bit about the manual QA score here. Once an automatic analysis is done for a case, if you wanted to go in and override that, you can do it. Here I cannot do it. I cannot demo it, unfortunately, but we are happy to show it again later. But you're always able to go in and click on this and say, hey, I observed this as positive, but I don't agree with that. You can go and quickly change that to negative. You can annotate on the case exactly why you're saying it's negative. You can put a note as well. You can do all of that cool stuff here. And your annotation will stay in the case. Anybody reviewing this case will be able to see that annotation, see your reasoning, your note, and then understand why you have overwritten that. And going back to the previous question, we keep in the backend, we keep track of all such user overrides, right? So let's say this particular behavior called probing, and the models are thinking, okay, the probing questions were actually asked, right? And it keeps saying positive. But if enough times you have done user overriding and you have said, no, it's actually negative, or you tell us that this behavior is not working correctly because I've checked it like 4 times and it always says it's positive, but it should be negative, we go back and we update the models. But if there are enough overrides, they'll start automatically getting updated to whatever the behavior that you want. Right. So the auto QA piece takes care of all of that. Right. In addition, one other thing you can do here is, again, I cannot demo it today, but what you can do is, this is against an auto QA scorecard. If you wanted to manually review this and override this, you can have multiple scorecards in our system, right? Rubric or scorecard, whatever you call it. You can have multiple scorecards in our system, and you can come and choose a particular scorecard and completely override all of this, completely do a manual review if you want to do that as well. A lot of teams do that because they may be testing a new rubric, or they may have rubrics based off of various dimensions that For new recruits, there's a different rubric. Maybe there's a different geography, there's a different rubric. If you're doing any of that, we'll automatically support all of that, and you'll be able to come in and do all of that here. Also, as you can see on the screen here, we have an audio file, right? So most of you already probably have some kind of a contact center, some kind of phone conversations. In our system, we're able to support that. As long as we can get access to that audio file and we're able to pull it in, we will auto analyze it for you. All the colors that you're seeing here, if you're able to play this, you'll see that this red zone, orange zone is where customers like getting really mad, they're angry. We have pretty sophisticated models to figure out that a customer is unhappy at various points on an audio file. And then we try to figure that out. We also automatically transcribe that audio file, and you'll be able to see exactly how the agent is performing along the transcript. Right? To long story short, what we're trying to really say here is that we are multimodal, so we can support your audio files, we can support your chat transcripts, and we can support your email transcripts, all of that here. On the top left-hand side here, we automatically generate the auto QA score. If there were to be a manual override on this, somebody actually overrides this thing, then you'll see a manual QA score here. System will take this manual QA as the source of truth for this particular case. And you can also see something called customer effort score. Right? So this is what we are automatically generating again. We are trying to figure out how much effort your customer had to put in to get this problem resolved. Right? So we have a formula for that, and we do a lot of magic to be able to get to this number. But this is also very valuable, very helpful, and this could be one of the metrics, North Star metrics, you're trying to work on in your organization. So from here, we'll move on to what we call as dashboard. So effectively, every individual case is being automatically analyzed, but the real value is for you as leaders trying to understand it from a higher level picture. That okay, how do I see my entire organization? What is the aggregate performance looking like? Which is where our dashboards come in. So this is our dashboard page, right? So usually this is your landing page, right? There's a lot of stuff happening here, so I'll spend some time to kind of describe what's happening. But from here on, most of the rest of the demo is about talking stuff. But this is a dashboard page. You come in here, you're able to view the overall QA health of your organization right here. Right. As you can see some of the KPIs that we chose: QA score, CES, and tickets reviewed. All of this is customizable. If you want to add any more KPIs, we can easily add those. We're happy to add those as well. Right. As you scroll below, you will see the same KPIs as trend lines. You can do both weekly and monthly trends here, and you can see how this performance is varying over weeks or months. Right. You're also able to see the overall group performance, and we have pretty sophisticated user group support here. Right. You can define all of your agents. You can bucket them into various groups. It could be along various dimensions. For example, here it could be by teams, by locations, by managers, by time zones. Whatever dimension you want to kind of bucket your agents, you can do that. All of that in our system, and these dashboards will automatically align with whatever dimensions you want to bucket them in. Right? But it's powerful because it helps you understand how different groups are performing against each other. Right? So you can come in here, same KPIs that you chose, you're able to get an overall view. And as I scroll below, you get an overall picture of skills, right, and behaviors. So it goes very granular. It tells you exactly that on this particular behavior called resolution, that this team is not that great, right? So you'll be able to see clearly what's happening here. On timing, they're pretty good. On grammar, they're reasonably good, but clearly on introduction and resolution, they're pretty weak. And so from here, this becomes the input to your coaching. You can take that. You can go deeper. You can actually compare teams. Here we don't have the data for team comparison, but if we had multiple teams under this group called support, right? So I click on support and I'm seeing all these agents. You'll be able to compare them against each other. So for example, all these agents come together in this group called support. I see that overall in the solution of the skill, they're kind of weak. If I were to click on that, you get a comparative view on how each of these agents are doing on this particular skill, who is the weakest and who is doing better than the rest. Right. So this is basically finding the needle in the haystack and kind of trying to tell you exactly who to focus on, what problem, and your coaching effectively becomes that much easier from here. I'll pause here. Any questions?
Not a question per se, Harish, but on what you just shared. I imagine in that the green and red lines, that also gives the coaches an opportunity to maybe work out the buddy or the collaboration system, right? When you see a strong versus maybe a not so strong. Um, do you see that being a use case, especially for this view?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point actually. So many companies do want to do, they actually practice the buddy system and trying to know, okay, clearly Brandon is very weak on this particular skill. Who do I pair this person with? Who can do a better job helping them? Gayatri is the one who looks like is doing better than everybody else. So you want to pair them up, right?
Very good.
And yeah, in a view where, let's say, you are able to actually view this in various dimensions, in various team dimensions, and you are able to compare and say, hey, all the newly recruited agents, these are performing weak on this aspect. What about the tenured agents I've had for more than 2 years? Who is the best in that? And then trying to do that, pairing, all of that. These dashboards give you all of that information. You don't have to dig through anything, ask anybody. Everything is readily available here.
Harish, I'm going to follow up on a question with that, if you don't mind. Up at the top where you're showing those key metrics,
Yeah.
Support struggles, right? We have a lot of metrics in support. We always have. But very few organizations actually share quality metrics, outside of the organization, especially up to C staff. What do you think about the sharing, for instance, of a QA score? Do you think that's important for executives to see and note? Or is that more of something that should be kept internal to support orgs?
Yeah, it's a great question. Teams are very, very sensitive about this because, especially in large contact centers, it's not just one's job, it's also their bonuses. Many things are tied to the QA score. Um, so, what we have seen companies do is the overall QA score, they do share it because it has to become part of their global dashboards, their weeklies, or their QBRs, what have you. We have seen companies leveraging our QA score, both auto and manual, and using that as part of their dashboards. The details, which is what we are showing here, they usually stay strictly internal. This is basically where you really understand who is strong in what, who is weak in what, and then you're trying to give them, improvement opportunities and understand who your superstars are. Actually, reward them with some extra bonus, whatever you want to give. Those details usually stay here, but people do use the overall auto QA and manual QA scores, maybe even go up to the skill levels and kind of demonstrate that outside the organization and say how well the org is doing. We can actually do some API kind of support as well. So if one of our customers wants to automatically use this data and directly put it into one of their BI tools, we can support that as well.
Great. Thank you.
And building on that question, we have reports. We have pretty sophisticated reports, and you'll be able to go to this reports tab, and you can run your own reports. You can pull any of the automatically seeded reports as well, by various user groups and date ranges. You can send it as an email. You can schedule it to be sent weekly to you. You can download all of that into a CVS file and use it to your internal BI tools, or as your weekly reports, whatever you want to do. It's quite powerful, and all of that is supported right now. One last piece I want to show on the dashboards here is that you can view all of this data by any scorecard you have in the system. So going back to what I was saying earlier, we support multiple scorecards. Unlike any other tool in the market right now, you can have any number of scorecards in our system, and you can use those scorecards for all of this auto QA, manual QA analysis that's being done. Right. So some other, lots of bells and whistles. I would actually pause here and ask you for any questions, but like we were saying, we have the coaching tools. You can see entire this coaching on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side here, you can see all of our coaching modules. You can share feedback with agents. You can record your feedback. There's an inbox, there's an outbox, all of that is supported. We also have extensive support for manual QA. Let me actually bring this up here. So this entire manual QA console kind of gives you a high level flavor, exactly like the dashboards we had seen, but this is purely only for manual QA. You can define a lot of assignments, right? It's very automatic, very sophisticated assignments where you can tell the tool, okay, I want to do manual QA, but every week I want you to automatically surface a few cases which follow, various conditions, right? So you can tell the system that every week it'll come in, it'll show all of your QA people exactly what cases to QA, and show them all these assignments. They can jump in, they can start manually QAing them, and then they have this whole dashboard telling you what's happening in your manual QA world. This is also fully supported here. We have disputes dashboard as well. So your agents can dispute any of the analysis done, whether it's automatically done or is manually done. On the case itself, they can flag a dispute that triggers a workflow. Then that comes into the dispute dashboard. And if I'm the QA manager, or if I'm the actual agent supervisor, I see all the disputes in my list. I can start dispositioning of that. Either agree with that or disagree with that. So we have the entire dispute workflow built in as well.
Harish, a question here. Can agents see each other's scores, or is that kept away?
It is kept away. By design, we have this entire role-based access control built in. We do keep it away. But if somebody were to override it and somebody were to say, now we follow a very laissez-faire approach and we want everybody to see everything, that can be done as well. But most organizations we see, supervisors want to see various agents, but we haven't seen agents being able to see each other's. But if you want, it can be turned on.
Yeah, I think that brings in a strong cultural connection, whether you have leaderboards and are you sharing that information with the entire team, or do you think that that's more private, right? And I know a lot of organizations struggle with that approach. Do you have any recommendations for what you've seen work well?
Yeah, we've seen leaderboards being shared. So it's aggregated, it's collated, right? So either the manager, the supervisor, or maybe the quality manager, somebody is doing their job of trying to collate the data and maybe put that into their favorite BA tool or maybe in Excel, and then they share it across the organization. Again, it's an aggregate level data, right? So for them to understand where am I stacked against the other agents in the overall organization, they're getting this from an authority from their manager. So they just go and consume the data. The data is coming from our tool, but the agents don't have the tool access to go dig in and say, okay, how is this person doing? We haven't seen that kind of access being given.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. One piece I want to show here is what we call as tickets of interest, right? So since we are anyway churning the ocean, trying to figure out the various quality related aspects from all of your conversations, we also have this nice page where we can bucket those in for you to go in and dig deeper, right? Clearly, if every conversation is being analyzed and you come in, you see the dashboards, you get an idea of, okay, what skills are we doing well, what behaviors we are doing well, what are we not doing well. You get all of that from the dashboard page. But in this page, and this is again fully customizable, we can work with you on this. You can come in and say, okay, I want all of these tickets grouped along various criteria, right? I want all those low CSAT tickets to be grouped here. I want a full view of that so that I can go dig in deeper and do a more deeper manual QA. Maybe low QA score tickets. So this could be the first thing that you come in and say, show me all the low QA score tickets in the last 2 days. When we say low QA score, this is auto QA score, right? And then you start digging in deeper and trying to give that feedback back to the agents, right? So we have this tickets of interest page. ZTP is a zero tolerance policy because we have pretty strong compliance models as well. We have customers who use this where they're trying to say, we don't want our agents ever asking for passwords. We never want them to ask for any credit card information. So can your models figure out and see any violations? And if they do see violations, they'll get flagged here in this bucket. And you can come in here, dig deeper and see if you want to give them a zero QA score, whatever you want to do. It's automatically bucketed here. All right, I will go back to the deck and just show at a high level. This is a summary of all of our features. We are happy to dig in deeper and try to actually show you a full-on demo on, for example, on how intelligent assignments works. Right. So this is where I was talking to you about. It'll take longer than our duration right now, but this is basically where you'll be able to go in and define assignment rules and tell the system, hey, for this group of agents, every week I want the at least 3 cases to be surfaced by QA people, and all your QA people are doing is coming in, logging in, and boom, 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 working through those cases all manually, and system automatically supports all of that. You can do grading calibration, right? So between agents, how are they really calibrating? How do you do this calibration? Most teams do it like once a week. That entire workflow is again supported in our system. You can even grade the grader, right? So just like you're QAing the agents, you can QA the graders as well, and that entire workflow is also supported in the system. And lastly, why do you want to use a product like Elevator X? Maybe you're doing manual QA right now, but clearly a snapshot view that this takes you from that random sampling to 100%. Really, really saves a lot of time and effort, a lot of cost for you. It's a highly cost-effective solution, right? And it takes you to this objective state where unbiased coaching can be done. Not weekly, can be daily if you want to. Yep. I'll pause there, Judy. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harish. So I think we're going to poke around a little bit on that cost piece because that's so important in today's times, right? Every support organization is feeling significant pressure to modify budgets, lower their budgets, decrease their cost. When you move to an auto QA, obviously you introduce into minds, right? Maybe we don't need our entire QA team. What are you finding there? Can you talk a bit about that and how to set the right perception of a cost savings or a return on investment for customers who are thinking about, moving to automated?
Yeah. So what we have seen is that on average, teams have, let's say, one QA analyst for 25 to 30 agents. And it could vary depending on your nature of your business and the support volumes. But on average, it's around one QA person for 25 to 30 agents. When a tool like this comes in, clearly, you don't need as many QA people. Then what we see organizations doing is repurposing them as coaches or maybe even supervisors, right? Or if you're growing at a tremendous pace, you no longer hire any more QA people because a tool like this can do almost 80 to 90% of the job that you're doing, right? So this does most of the bulk analysis, but you use your human QA people to add a flavor to their feedback. Maybe do some kind of a QA that is really hard for the automated solution to do. Because, for example, I'll say, if there is a criteria where you're saying, are our agents following exactly how the knowledge articles are saying they should be doing for this particular type of case? Are they following the entire protocol correctly? Some of the automated models that we have seen, they struggle to figure this out because the knowledge base is changing so rapidly that for the system to catch up is going to be very, very hard. This is where the human QA agents can make a huge difference, right? They are the experts. They know exactly what's supposed to happen. And they can, even if it's a random sample, even if it's a small sample, they can do a far better job than what an automated solution can. So what we have seen teams do is take their rubric, break it down and say, okay, out of these 10 questions, 7 or 8 are easy to automate. So let the auto QA solution take care of all of that. Maybe there are these 2 questions which are actually very subjective. We want to keep them very subjective, and those are where the human QA have to get involved, right? And people kind of arrive at this slowly. The great thing is our solution supports both the modes easily out of the box.
Perfect. Thank you. I think it's very clear in our world right now, the role of our support agents is changing radically, and we have to be prepared to help them with the impacts of AI on their roles and how we're going to remove the monotonous, repeatable work. We're going to, have them more in personalized settings with customers. They're going to work on, quite frankly, some of the harder issues that are out there because, AI is going to help. And clearly having strong coaching. I would say, to anybody who's really focusing on skill sets as we move into the future, we talk a lot about the agent skill sets that we're going to need to have. But these coaching skills are going to become more and more and more important, right? And I think that is very critical for all of us, to think about our QA teams, our managers, our supervisors, and are we enabling them with the right skills to be very effective coaches? Because AI, again, taking quite a toll on the types of roles that we have, the new roles that we're going to need, but how do we transition the current roles to be ready for support of the future? And I think having, again, the coaching for the agents for the roles that they have, but the roles that they want to move into is so critical as well. Train them for the role of tomorrow, not just what they're doing for us today. So I think we can't underemphasize or overemphasize that piece enough, and how critical it is for support leadership to have their eye on that and really question, have I made my managers, are they good coaches? Are they effective at bringing along the workforce, especially, again, for a workforce that wants that constant feedback and that constant coaching? They don't want to come to work and be mediocre. They want to come to work and be amazing at what they do. That's where job satisfaction comes in. So I think what you've shared today is very, very important. Do you have any final closing thoughts? We have a few minutes left. We've been keeping an eye on the questions, asking them as they came through. But Harish, any closing thoughts for the audience today?
Yeah, the main thing is that so if you already have a QA program, or if you're thinking about starting one, I would strongly suggest leveraging a tool. You already probably know the process. You're the owners of your process, but being able to leverage a tool, especially in this new world of Gen AI, where some of those tricky things, tricky questions can be fully automated right now. And a great example is, has this case actually resolved the problem that the customer came in, or were they walking away unhappy? Figuring that out is used to be very hard earlier, but now I think it's not that hard. So please leverage this new Gen AI wave. It can actually work in your favor, and trying to put a program like this in place. And like Judy says, it's not just for the agents, it's also for the managers. It's also for them to feel good that here's a tool that helps me keep my team happy, because nobody really wants to work with unhappy employees. And in this whole remote world, people are super stressed out. So any kind of help that one can get, especially leveraging the latest tech and trying to keep your team happy, should be a great welcome thing. And we think we can really help there. And we'd strongly urge you to take a look at this.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you can't stress enough what the impact of employee experience on the customer experience is. So, not looking at QA or quality monitoring as a disciplinary and authoritarian type of approach, but changing how we all think about it and talk about it, being a coaching tool, a very effective coaching tool, I think is so important. If any of the customers on today's call want to know more, reach out to your customer success manager. They're there for you to talk through any of the questions that you have. Again, thank you for joining this series. We run these every month. And as I mentioned, why did I go back to November? February is already available to register. February, of course, is all about the roadmap and the innovations that Karan Sood and his team have been implementing across the board, across all of the Support Logic products and platform. So you can register clicking in the docs section and seeing all of the assets that you have. Lynn, I want to thank you for jumping in so quickly earlier and for arranging these sessions. And again, to all of our customers who've joined us today, great to have you with us. Thank you for giving us these moments of your time. We really appreciate it. And Harish, great to see you. Go Packers. And I look forward to our next webinar together, Harish.
Absolutely. Everyone, thank you. Thank you for giving us this time. We're happy to share more, but this is great. Thanks, Judy. Thanks for hosting an amazing session.
Bye-bye.
And Lynn. Bye.